Rick, here we go.
Good morning, Keith Jones.
Good man. Hey, I thought this one topic would be a question, rhetorical in some respects. Am I really giving up my inner peace over that? So, and just saying it just like that. Am I really giving up my inner peace over that?
Yeah.
So I used to think about. We did a podcast, Rick, a while back. Was called instead of getting bothered, get into getting free. Instead of being bothered. And I think about that with this particular topic. Am I giving up my inner peace over that? And what I used to do in the past, man, it would be the slightest thing. I would be peaceful, or maybe I didn't start off so peaceful, and something would happen, and just like that, I would forget myself. I mean, so quickly. And it could be anything, man. I'm at work. I'm coming in with whatever attitude I was, because this is Keith 1.0. And I would hear a coworker who, in my mind, my narrative is, don't they know that these walls are thin, or we're in a cubicle? Why are they so loud? Like, have some respect, or some courtesy for other people, consideration that they're right next to you and they're trying to carry on their work and you're disturbing them. And Rick, I totally make that coworker the enemy. I'm talking about, somebody needs to talk to them. Don't they have some kind of like professional etiquette? I would be willing to give up my inner peace over that, instead of being someone who says, in the face of a coworker who happens to be talking at a volume, they can make it a big challenge to concentrate. Why don't I work on the part of me that's bothered by that, instead of demanding that the coworker be different? So I go through and I think about all the things that in the past that I would have given up my inner peace over. I mean, small things. I've seen people over this little thing that you put over your face, that in some places are required and other places that aren't, to help prevent or reduce the likelihood of transmitting the coronavirus. Some people say wear it, some people say don't wear it, and people are losing their minds over that. I'm going to give up my inner peace over that? I don't think so. Somebody cutting me up, not speeding up in traffic and cutting in front of me. I'm giving up my inner peace over that. Somebody asking me, hey, listen, we're a little short staffed today. Can you work a little longer? Or we just got this patient that came in, and because I got plans, or I had an idea of what my day was going to be like, I'm giving up my inner peace over that. Man, I just think about that all the time. And then even things, Rick, before, like I used to lose my mind over racial slurs. Rick, I'm giving up my peace over that. I mean, I don't have much of a practice, Rick, or I'm not working on developing a level of consciousness where those things, which I have no control over, are able to throw me off the path. I want to become the kind of person, the kind of being that no matter what happens, I'm able to stay on this path. And so whenever something nudges me, I want to be able to be like, that's the area of me that needs to be worked on. Mm-hmm. Not the people need to change, but I need to work on this so that I don't give up my inner peace over that.
Yeah, beautifully said, Keith. And that experience that you've had compared to how you feel now tells the whole story. I mean, if people could see how you were suffering before, when you were in a situation where you were judging others and you were not mindful and your consciousness was a very low level, having to do with, why aren't you pleasing me? That kind of analysis. That shows the kind of not only importance of looking at this to avoid the suffering, but also the importance of how it means to be a person in the world who's acting responsibly and who's acting in a way that has nothing to do with hating other people or being rude to other people. It's all about trying to figure out what is the best way to handle external circumstances. And the big problem that we all have is our expectations. You have them right now. We want to do a good show. We want to be helping other people. We have expectations that we want to make sure are met. But the reality is sometimes, most of the time, and often all of the time, that's outside of your pay grade, right? All you can do is be how you want to be the change that you want to be in the universe. And then it's not your vote anymore. What happens after that is out of your hands. And you have to develop a strategy or a way of coping with whatever shows up as being okay. as being something that you can manage and deal with. Otherwise, you'll continue to suffer all your days. So not giving up my inner peace for that applies literally to everything that comes your way, everything. And so when you're dealing with the practice, in my mind, I'm always focused on trying to find the richness in the experience if it's something that we would call negative. But Zen teaches that there's no difference between the negative and the positive. It's all part of the whole. And it's all part of a bell curve that goes up and down, dealing with circumstance that is at once difficult, trying, terribly disappointing, that's the lows, and then exhilarating. One of the things that we run into with a big problem like this, where we're giving up our inner peace all the time, is that we're giving up our inner peace and we become so good at it. We become so good at being hateful and disliking circumstance that when joy really does hit us, we don't know what the hell to do with it. We find something wrong with it. We find a way to complain about it, where there's this gift right at your doorstep that you can't even see because your mind has become the obstacle. Your emotional psyche, your neural pathways have become rigid with the idea that it's only bad and things that come to me that are good I can't even see. Or I want to see them, but only in the lens that I have made for this, the lens that makes me feel like it's really worthwhile. So I guess what I'm saying is that, the inner peace, it comes at a very, very high price, and that has to be protected. And the peace that is protected has to do with acceptance, being mindful and not judging self, not judging others, just observe. And then, as you say, I think what helps me is I find myself, this is not the way I want to react. This is not how I want to be in the world. And that gets me back in the path.
Oh, 100%, Rick. I love what you said that, about how life shows up and how Zen views it. And that, frustrating and disappointing in one moment and challenging, but part of that same coin or that same experience, there is the availability of that experience being exhilarating, being rewarding. And I see that now where I didn't see it before. So, but if you in the inner peace is the key. The inner peace, having a practice or something in place so that you can quickly disidentify with the narrative. And the thing about the narrative is they're going to keep coming left and right because that's what the mind does.
Never stops.
They don't stop. What happens is you stop identifying with them. And so while the narrative is there, if you're consistent with your practice and consistent with this mindfulness, this awareness, this consciousness, then while that's all going around, you don't even notice it. It's there, you don't notice it. It's kind of like outside there is wind blowing. And even though you step inside, the wind is still blowing outside. It's still happening.
That's great.
Except that it's not affecting you. And then you'll be able to go out in the wind and it still not affect you. You're aware that it's happening if you choose to, but you don't identify with it. And a couple examples would be how inner peace clears the space so that the best of you shows up no matter what happens. Couple examples. If you say to yourself that, hey, listen, I want my kids to have a great education. You come home from a long day of work, you find out that they've been playing video games or doing whatever, and they have a homework assignment due tomorrow or a test. And normally you would just like, don't you understand? Like, this is important about getting in school and you need to be responsible, all this other stuff. That's one way to handle it. Another way is to be rooted in peacefulness as you go about, like, hey, listen, this is your future. The homework is important. Let's sit here and do it. They make excuses, they resist, but you're able to hold that space, never confusing this normal behavior for young people, with a lot of young people, confusing it with who they are, so you can always stay open. But not giving, you're going to give up your inner peace because your kid didn't do their homework? What? Because they have a late assignment? I don't think so. Something was said from an unconscious space by a child, your loved one, and you're going to bed angry without sending them love. No, your intention becomes, I'm not going to bed upset. I'm going to bed loving this person and making sure that they know that I'm loved. They're loved by me. So you
Beautiful.
never go to bed or finish a phone call or conversation with your proverbial or figurative back turned to someone, or a heart closed to a loved one. No, your standard becomes, I will, when I go to bed, my heart will be open to everyone I know, period. That becomes your standard. How do you do that? Because you're not willing to give up your inner peace because they said something that hurt your feelings, or they forgot your birthday, or you have to repeat yourself because they're not listening when you talk. Whatever the case is, you're not giving any of that up, man. You're like, I'm giving up my inner peace for that. No, every time I go to bed, I'm going to bed with everybody knowing that my heart is open to them, that I love them. That's how I'm showing up. Come into the workplace. No, I'm not going into a workplace with a complaint or with what's wrong or what's missing. I can't believe they called me in on my call day. It's your call day. You're called in. Like come in with an open heart. Don't give up your inner peace over that. They asked me to stay late. Come in with the best shoe on, asked to stay late. It's not a matter of things need to be a certain way for you. That's a losing proposition. Your thing is, how do I cultivate or learn to cultivate inner peace in the face of this? You do that, then over time, that same thing will not bother you. And then there'll be more things that will show up, and then they won't bother you either. And you will continue to live life fully. And as you say, Rick, and I think about all the time, if I do this clearing and this pruning every day with my practice, I get to experience the juice, every bit of juice in that moment, man. Dude, that's what I'm about. So, so the parts of me that are in the way of me experiencing that juice, gotta go, man. And I am not willing to give up my inner peace for that.
Yeah, so beautiful, Keith. That's wonderfully said. And I can't add anything more to it. People ask, excuse me, people ask sometimes, well, how do you go about doing it? Well, the practice means that you start and stop. You go back to your old ways, you try your new ways. But one of the things that helped me early on when I started down this path was the idea of trying to just recognize when I was doing things in my head to sabotage myself or to sabotage my own inner peace. So, for example, if I was thinking about a slight, I would manifest that slight, as you say, exaggerate it in my head so it became like the all-consuming issue of my life, at least for a few minutes. Instead, what you might try doing is when something comes up that you feel unsure about or that you are normally inclined to judge as bad for you, think of it maybe as next. In other words, when I have a thought that pops up, I'll think, okay, next. And then I'll think another thought. And if it's still in that terrible, awful, upsetting inner peace kind of mode, next, until you get to a point where you're clear that what you're doing is you're rejecting all of this analysis that your ego is giving you, all of this ammunition to hate or to become defensive or to close down. That ammunition is not serving you. No. So if you can just get used to the idea of, I have control of my thoughts. My feelings come from my thoughts. I can therefore control my feelings. And next, until you can get to a clearing where you don't have that any longer. That was one tip that helped me. Another tip, and this is a little perverse, I suppose, but another tip that helped me with my practice was trying my best to find something that was humorous about whatever happened. But the rule was humorous, but it can't be at the expense of another person. It had to be at my own expense. Like, okay, all right. So this fella is coming to the door with a package. And so normally what I'd be thinking is this package is probably, it's probably broken. It's, they didn't treat it right. It's glass. God dang it. Why can't they ever play? and then catching myself doing it and then say, yeah, it's probably $1 million and the check is torn, so you kind of are aware of what you're doing to yourself. Right. So I think the notion of not judging, being mindful enough to either find humor or to say next, to make sure you're aware that you're controlling that spiraling ego need for defending. And that puts you, I think, in a position where you can judge what's going wrong and also make amends and try to figure out what the best way is for you to stay on that inner peace path.
Oh, I completely agree, Rick. I'll close with something that happened a few months ago, maybe even a month and a half ago. One of my friends told me that he was, out with some other friends that I know, and they were talking very negatively about me, and he just wanted me to know and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, thanks. I mean, I didn't need to know, but but he told me, and I just was so grateful that I didn't close my heart to the people that said what, that it's all secondhand anyway, but they said what they said. I was okay with it. Or if I get feedback, that I don't close my heart. Like, I made it, and that's because I'm so clear that I'm not willing to give up my inner peace because someone said something negative about me, or my mind tells me that someone doesn't like me. No, I want to be the kind of person that even when people don't like me or don't like me, think very negative about me, that I keep an open heart to them. I want to be that kind of person.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
I'm like, man. And so it's been working, but it's been working because I've been really committed to not giving up my inner peace over that. Is my whatever you want to call it. For some people, it may be their faith. For other, I mean, is your faith so fragile that you will create enemies of other people who disagree with you? Your faith is that fragile? Man, I want no part of that faith. I got to tell you, I want no part of it. Is your values and your belief systems such that if somebody challenges them, that your ability to treat everybody as a neighbor and to be kind and loving and treat people equally, you can't do that? Like, really? Like, I mean, seriously, no, man. I want to be so rooted in this consciousness, on this path, that no matter what you or what people do, how life shows up, that I'm loving, I'm kind, I'm compassionate, that I'm a great neighbor, a great friend, a positive, loving human being. I want to be that. And what I found in that experience, man, is like, I just felt joy, man. I didn't feel upset. I didn't even have the impulse to close my heart. I did the exact opposite, man. I leaned in even more. I was even more loving, even more kind. I mean, I celebrated one of their birthdays with them, and took them out for lunch, as if I was not even privy to this information, because that's something that I would have done anyway. I would have been loving and I would have been kind. In that way, I would have been thoughtful. That's what I would have done. Not Keith 1.0. Oh, heart would have been closed completely. We shut down for business. I don't know who you are. I don't care if we ever talk again. Oh, man, I didn't do that. I'm not giving up my inner peace for that. We've been doing this practice at Mayo Clinic and getting people involved. And along the way, people have dropped off, just like I have in my past.
Yeah.
And dude, you wouldn't know that you know that I'm not attached to whether people do the practice or don't do the practice. That's their path. My path is to be loving and kind no matter what. My friend Tim, we were talking about Billy, right? And so Billy, we both know Billy. He doesn't have the healthiest lifestyle. Let's just leave it at that. It's not the healthiest lifestyle, but he's an amazing human being, and we love Billy. And so Tim and Billy years ago did something, and I said, man, so how was Billy? He's like, he struggled. He was like, he did. He's like, Keith, I expected him to struggle. He's not living a healthy lifestyle. If he would have performed well, then why are we doing all this work, right? We might as well stop and adopt Billy. And the same thing here. It's like I expect Keith to be peaceful and kind, not all the time, but consistently peaceful and kind. If he's not, then what does that say about the practice, right? If I'm not living up to it, I think about the same thing with this country. Oh my God, Keith is this amazing person, or whatever else in terms of how loving and kind and open he is. You know why? Because I'm living the ideas of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. I mean, if I was a person out there spewing hate, pointing fingers, making everybody else an enemy, then what is this document that we say we value and we are going to uphold with our behaviors toward each other? Why even have it if we're not going to live it, right? I want to be that kind of human being that's living it every day. We have these amazing values at Mayo Clinic. I want everybody who comes into Mayo Clinic is like, man, you know what? I don't want to be a hospital patient, but if I am one, I want to be one here. If somebody comes in for a job interview, they run into Keith Jones, they're like, dude, we're moving the family. We're rooting. I'm getting a job here at Mayo Clinic. This guy's living it. That's what I'm talking about, man. I'm talking about that, man. You know what? We're kind of like at a limit right now, capacity, in which people that have had offices or workspaces before, they're having to share their office spaces with one or two new colleagues. Dude, that's a gift. Come on, man. Come on in here and get some of this kindness. It's plenty. I'm having it all to myself. Like, let me get you some of this Mayo joy, some of this Mayo love. Are you kidding me? The more the merrier. Not like, man, I don't want to share my office and I can't be doing this. Dude, we need help over here. There's a lot of demand for these services, man. We call them the cavalry. I want to be that kind of person, Rick. So I'm not giving up my inner peace because somebody asked me to share an office. I'm happy to do it. I'm just a servant. I can't believe I had an office this long by myself. Like, man, I've had it too good, you know, and now it's about to get better because there's more people, the more the merrier, man. There's so much room on this train, Rick. So I'm not giving up my inner peace anymore for that trivial stuff, man, or even the big stuff.
I love listening to you. And, you know, one of the byproducts of having inner peace is the feeling that I have right now of wanting to be close to you, wanting to experience life with you, which is always the case with our inner circle of guys that are like-minded. You get so much out of the energy of the other person when that energy is pure and full of non-judgment and full of life and full of service ideas. And that's just what you are. And I'm just thrilled to listen to you. And it makes me it makes me so proud of you and so happy for you because you're just in a place in your life that's not only admirable, but feeds other people, including me. And I thank you for that, Keith.
Oh, Rick, thanks so much, man. I love you, man. And you contributed to this every single day. And you've done it for over 10 years. So thank you, Rick. I love you.
I love you. Adios, man. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.